Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Just in Time Cafe. I am Tracy O'Rourke, co-founder of the Just in Time Cafe with Elizabeth Swan, and I will be your moderator for today's webinar titled How to Apply Visionary Lean Thinking to Personal Goal Setting, featuring the dynamic, the charismatic, the one, the only Deandra Wardell. Hi, Deandra. How are you?
I'm well. How are you doing, Tracy?
And I got a big woo from Mark's Meats as well.
Hi, Tracy. Hi, Mark. Hi, everyone that's on. It's so good to virtually see everyone.
It is. So Elizabeth and I are so excited to have you on the Just in Time Cafe. And if you don't know about this amazing woman already, I'm going to tell you just a little bit about her before we go ahead and let her rock your world. She is a visionary coach, a strategist, a speaker, a consultant, and a self-proclaimed Kata geek. She is so much a Kata geek that she's actively recruiting more Kata geeks by co-hosting the KataCon 7 the week of March 15th. So if you haven't signed up for the Lean Frontiers KataCon 7 yet, you should. Deandra is also leading the charge with the root cause racism movement and recently put out a blog series called The Colors of Love, which is a compilation of very insightful and thoughtful blogs that you should find and read. We're going to go ahead and share the root cause racism website link at the end of this webinar in the chat window. So you have that as your next step. Deandra also wants to help build a world of problem solvers and is the founder of On to the Next One consulting company. And as you can see, Deandra is very passionate about lots of things, and lucky are the things that have Deandra, like us. So just a few housekeeping notes before we begin. You can ask questions anytime by entering them into the chat window. We welcome your participation. Deandra was going to ask you some questions throughout the session, and we do have some polls for you to participate in as well. These webinars are recorded and they are available for free, and we'll post them on the Just in Time Cafe website in the coming weeks for you to view over and over and over. So please join us, first of all, for our first activity by sharing where in the world are you from? People have registered from all over the world, and we'd love to know where you are right now and what time is it over there. So if you haven't already, please type in the chat section where you're joining us from today. And don't forget to send your chat to all attendees, not just the panelists, so that everybody can see where all these wonderful people are coming from. So I know you're seeing the chat window as much as me, Deandra. So we've got people from LA. Hey, Mark, how are you? We have Anna from Canada, Mark from Surrey, British Columbia. It's 11 a.m. over there. Wow. Jennifer Ayers in Portland. We have Sally in Spokane, Chandra in Ottawa, Heather right here from San Diego, as well as Stephanie living in Ottawa. It's 2 p.m. over there. Cruza, how are you? She's also from San Diego. Kelly from Japan, Denise from Kansas City, Portia from LA. And also some people from Beirut. Wow, that's incredible. So lots of different people. We have people from Australia. Carlos is here from San Diego. How are you? We have Marcia from Jefferson and Louisville, Kentucky. I'm sorry, Jeffersonville and Louisville, Kentucky. So lots of people. Oh, and Gemma from the UK. Woohoo! We know her too.
Yes.
Oh, and Jennifer and Anastasia from Beirut. Thank you. So guess what? Thank you for sharing. Now let's get to the idea of combining visioning and lean thinking to take you from dreaming to doing. Buckle up. Hold on to your hats. I'm handing it over to Deandra to rock your world.
All right. Oh my goodness, Tracy, everyone should have a hype person like Tracy O'Rourke. I mean, that's amazing. I'm excited. I'm like, wow, what does Deandra have to say? I can't wait. And I was like, oh, wait a minute. I'm Deandra. She has to say these things. So first of all, I am just, oh my goodness, I'm so excited to be here today. And for everyone who has joined from all around the world, there are so many names that I recognize. There are women in lean friends who are on. There are members of the Divine Nine, some of my sorority sisters. There are people who have participated in the root cause racism projects. There are classmates from Western Kentucky University, new contacts on LinkedIn who I've recently met, and there are some people who I've not yet met you before, but I'm hoping that as a result of us connecting through this webinar, that you'll reach out to me, that you'll connect with me on LinkedIn or any of my other social media channels so that we can continue to stay in touch and learn from one another. So again, just thank you for tuning in today. We are going to have some fun because I believe in fun. And to me, lean is a lot of fun. And of course, visionary lean thinking is even more fun. So what are we going to do today? So this is what we're going to cover. First of all, we're going to talk about what is visionary lean thinking. And here's the funny thing about that. Visionary lean thinking, combining those words together, is something that happened as a result of talking with the Elizabeth Swan and Tracy O'Rourke. So I'm really excited to share with you all what visionary lean thinking is about and why it's important and the connection between personal goal setting and visionary lean thinking. We're going to talk about the 5 steps to apply visionary lean thinking to personal goal setting. And then, all of this ties into going from dreaming to doing. And I have some examples I want to share with you. And throughout, our time together today, this is really informal. So as Tracy indicated, whatever questions you may have or comments you may have, share them in the chat. Tracy's monitoring that. Make sure you put it to panelists and all participants so that everyone can see the questions you're asking. I will pause periodically so that we can interact. There are also some polls and some other questions that I'll be asking you because I don't want this to be one-sided. I want us to learn from each other and for us to talk as much as we can in this virtual space. So I did receive a question prior to the session, wondering what you needed to do to build or create a strategic vision board, because that's something that I love to guide people in doing. We're not going to build a strategic vision board today, but what you learn today is the foundation of what's included in my strategic vision board workshops. And if you're interested in building a strategic vision board, I have a little surprise for you at the end. So I'm excited about that. So without further ado, let's get into it. So what is visionary lean thinking? Well, we have to step back and first talk about what is lean thinking. And lean thinking is about purpose, it is about process, and it's about people. So Taiichi Ono, who was the inventor of the Toyota production system, has this famous quote. It says, the Toyota style is not to create results by working hard. It is a system that says there is no limit to people's creativity. People don't go to Toyota to work, but they go there to think. And so then from there, James Womack and Daniel Jones built upon that, and they did some in-depth study on the Toyota production system, or the Toyota style of management and leading people. And they are the ones who coined the term lean thinking. And that lean thinking, again, is connected to purpose, process, and people. So in a business setting, when you think about lean thinking, it starts with purpose. And that's the vision or the values. It is, what is it that the company needs to do or the organization needs to do to meet the customer's needs, to satisfy the customer, and to make sure that the business or the organization is successful and it can prosper, okay? And then when we look at process is, what are the steps that are taken to create whatever is of value to the customer, whether it's a product or a service. And there should be a flow to that process. So there's not any interruption. We're able to build, we're able to create, we're able to deliver whatever it is that the customer is demanding without delay. So that's what process is about. And then of course, people. Goodness, that's so important to anything that we do. And it's about engaging people, getting people to hone in on that creativity that they have that we all have within us, to solve problems, to come up with new and innovative ways to delight the customer with the products and the services that we provide. It's working together as a team, and it's just continuously improving and developing the individual, which makes processes better, which connects to the purpose, which satisfies the customer. So, a summary of what lean thinking is, it's a master plan, and it's connecting people to purpose through process. And it taps into, and there's an emphasis on that just unlimited creativity that dwells within all of us. And the way to tap into that is to get people thinking, and specifically lean thinking. Okay, so what is visionary lean thinking? So in the business, in the last slide that we were talking about, how Toyota production system functions, and it's about getting people not to come to work to do work, to get people to thinking, but there's this overall master plan. And in business, that master plan is connected to strategy deployment and strategic planning. And so here, I have the steps that show the connection of, what it is that we do in business. And the first step of strategic planning, it's about going from vision to tactics, something we're excited about. Why are we in business? Why are we doing the work that we do? To the execution. And then, how I like to refer to it is going from dreaming to doing. And so if you will notice, there I've starred above vision and approach, because these two steps in strategic planning tie into what we're going to talk about as it relates to visionary lean thinking and goal setting. So the first step, vision is so important because that sets the tone. It helps to provide direction with the alignment of how the business operates. When that alignment cascades, when that strategy cascades throughout every level of the organization, people are crystal clear about, what it is they need to accomplish, what it is they need to do, what it is that they're focused on in order to satisfy the customer. And so, usually with that vision, that's where we get the direction or the challenge. It's that the vision gets us thinking about that big, long-term, big, bold, audacious achievement. What is it that we want to do? Why are we in business? That's where the vision comes into play. And when companies place emphasis on that vision and they gain that clarity of why they're in business, why it is that they seek to deliver whatever the product or service that whatever that may be, that drives everything else. It drives the mission, it drives the values, goals, what have you. So, when we focus our efforts on clarifying that vision, that also helps us to understand what the future state is in terms of what we want to accomplish. Now, keep in mind, a vision statement is not a milestone, but it's what we aspire to. Okay, it's like our North Star. It's what keeps us on track when sometimes we may get off track. It helps us to realign and get back on course in terms of the direction that we're moving towards. And so a vision statement keeps an organization moving forward. So like, for example, take Google. Their vision statement is to provide access to the world of information in just one click. So that vision statement reflects what the company is best known for. It reflects why it is they're in business. They want to give their customers easy and speedy access to information without a struggle. So that's a big picture. That's a big vision. Well, then, we have to look at the approach. And the approach is the methodology that's used to execute whatever that long-term plan is. It helps to provide structure, it helps to provide governance, and it helps to guide us on the path and take the steps that we need to take to achieve the strategy that's connected to the goals, that's connected to the values and the mission, and links back to the vision. Okay, the tactics get into the day-to-day of what we do, but all of that is aligned, but it starts with having that vision. So I want to pause right here and just out of curiosity, Tracy, do we have any questions, or is everybody on board? Is everyone good so far?
We don't have any questions at this time. I'll see if anybody has any coming in, but I really like the the tag really putting out is, this visionary idea. What do you want? And I'm already lost in thought of what that looks like. So thank you for that.
Okay, you're welcome. Stay tuned. We're going to get into more
Okay.
what that looks like. So,
Oh, I did a question. Sorry. So
sure,
we just got one in.
sure.
What is the meaning of values here on this slide? Can you help understand that a little bit better?
Sure, sure. So values here in a business environment, that's what this slide represents. It's an example of like the core values, what the business stands for, the principles that guide the culture. So you'll see these vision and mission statements, but the values is how those vision and mission statements manifest. What are the examples that you would see? So like when I gave the example about Google's vision statement, well, their core values include focus on the user, and fast is better than slow. You can make money without doing evil. There's always more information out there, and great isn't good enough. And so they tie all that to one slogan. So their value is do the right thing. So that's another way to begin to materialize or be able to attach a behavior to what it is that an organization is trying to accomplish as it relates to their vision and mission statement. Okay.
Very nice. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Thank you for that question. Okay, so now the question of the day. What is visionary lean thinking? Glad you asked. And I feel like the two best ways to describe that is excitement and execution. And visionary lean thinking, when you start out thinking about excitement and that execution, that's what ties everything in to personal goal setting. So again, modeling from what we've talked about in business and, especially around the lean thinking piece. So if you start out with vision and being a visionary represents having original ideas, doing a lot of thinking and planning, having really great imagination, just having really bold aspirations in terms of what you visualize for the future state. And, it's something that is far off. It's a long term. So you're excited. It's big enough that you're excited about it, but it's also big enough that it's something that wouldn't be accomplished overnight or within a week or maybe even a month. It's something for a longer term. And so that's why it requires strategy so that you can have a plan and you can be systematic in terms of how you work towards, getting closer or representing whatever this vision is that you may have. And so then how does lean thinking tie in? So people may see how lean applies to what we do in the workplace. Well, lean applies to our personal goal setting because it starts out with that mindset of, how can I make this process better? Or how can I improve upon, whatever it is that I envision myself doing? And what are the methodical steps I can take to get me closer to, here I am in my current state, but I have this aspiration in the future state. And there's a gap in between. What can help me close that gap? And that's where the lean thinking comes into play. And so, as a result of having this great excitement, as a result of having a vision, as a result of having a strategy, well, it's great to have, the vision or the dream, but then it comes a point in time where you have to execute and when you have to do it. And, you want to be methodical and smart in terms of the approach that we take with the execution of those dreams. So we're going to talk about that a little bit more, but I have a question for you. So visionary lean thinking, like I said, this is something that, a term that we kind of put together as a result of some of the discussions that I was having with, Elizabeth and Tracy, our good friends from the Just in Time Cafe. So in my own words, I see visionary lean thinking as a way to connect people to purpose through continuous improvement. And so with what we've talked about so far, share in the chat, in your own words, how would you describe visionary lean thinking?
Ooh, this is going to be good. I can't wait to hear some of these responses.
Yes.
I was thinking about this as well. And, I always think, when we help organizations or even help individuals, we tell them, think about a problem you can resolve. Think about a problem that is within your job scope.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but then if I had a vision of, creating world problem solvers all over the world, I think about really big problems like solving world hunger. We always tell people, don't try to solve world hunger with your project. But when do we get to solve world hunger?
But
you need a world of problem solvers to solve world hunger.
Well, and that's the thing about it. And that's why I like this. I'm so excited that we're talking about this today because, we have these big, huge dreams. We want to solve world hunger. We want to come up with a cure for cancer. We want to end racism. We want to eliminate poverty. These are really big things. And the reason why I'm tying this to organizations is, yes, we have these big, huge goals that we want or desire, or these big objectives we want to accomplish. But we really need to scale things down and get it to where we can put our arms around it, because otherwise we become so overwhelmed that we don't know where to start. We don't want to start. Our brains shut down and they're like, no, nope, this is too big. And that's the other reason why it's so important in a business setting that we're clear on the vision, we're clear of what that strategy is and the alignment, because as that trickles throughout the organization, employees are able to see how they're connected to whatever it is the company is trying to accomplish and how that ties into their daily work and to their performance goals. And the same applies with, what it is we want to do personally in our own private lives with our families and, with whatever goals we have these really big, huge goals we want to accomplish. But again, how do we start to get our arms around it? And that's the process we're going to go through today, how we can get our arms around it so we can take the first step and break it down into bite-sized pieces where we can accomplish them.
Yes, I love that. Okay, let's hear a few of what some people wrote. Mark wrote, going beyond fixing what's broken and doing more than eliminating waste. So those are good first steps, but what's beyond that, as you say? Sudanshu says, let's achieve our purpose with speed, right? So how do we get there more quickly? Carlos says, not to worry about next week or next month. Where are we as a company? Where are we going to be in the next 10 or 25 years? Really good. Chandra says, a strategy to help you achieve your future state. Stephanie says, helping us materialize our thoughts and ideas so they come to fruition.
Oh, I like that.
Marines says, visionary lean thinking is making sure terminology is aligned. Everyone is on board with the vision. I like what Farah says too. Be excited for experimentation. It'll eliminate processes that don't add value. And I love that too. We always say experiment, but people are afraid sometimes to experiment. They don't want to take up too much time. There's a lot of pressure to make it work. And I like that. I like that thinking.
And if I can interject real quick, I
think
Sarah may have been looking at my notes. I'm joking. Sarah hasn't been looking at my notes, but that's right. Getting excited about experiments. Experimenting to some may be intimidating, but when you get excited about the vision or whatever it is you want to accomplish, then thinking about that next small step you can take, it becomes exciting. That's, you look forward to the experiment, because the thing about our current state and our future state, that gap, that unknown, we're only going to discover what the next thing it is we need to do by running a test, by doing a pilot, by doing an experiment. So thank you for that. Okay, Tracy, what else is in the chat?
We have a few more. Marcia says concise and conscientious action. Cruza says creating a unity of purpose in order to drive continuous improvement. And the last comment we have on this is accomplishing our goals one baby step at a time.
Absolutely. All of those were so good. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for sharing. So here's another question. Why is visionary lean thinking important? And, with some of the descriptions that you've shared and in your own words of defining visionary lean thinking, you've already touched on this, but, it begins with, we cannot aim for a target that's not set. And if we don't have a clear plan about what it is we're trying to accomplish, we'll get frustrated. Our wheels will just keep spinning. And, we always have a need for direction. Tracy mentioned earlier that I will be one of the co-hosts of KataCon 7. And if you've talked to me longer than 2 minutes, no matter where we interact, I'm going to mention something about the Toyota Kata. And one of the first steps of the Toyota Kata is getting the direction or the challenge, understanding ultimately what is it that we're trying to accomplish, where is it that we're trying to go. And so in a business or professional setting, that challenge or that direction comes from above. But in a personal setting, with what we're trying to accomplish with our personal goals, that challenge comes from within. And the thing about, why visionary lean thinking is so important, when the unexpected hits, take, for example, what we experienced, around this time last year with all of the shutdowns and the things that happened as a result of, the pandemic. Well, if you have a plan, you're able to pivot. And although the steps that you have planned to take may slightly shift, but if you at least have a good idea, if you have a direction about where it is you're trying to go, as obstacles come up, you can experiment. You can come up with other things to figure out how to either go over the obstacle, under it, or around it, and stay on the path of where it is that you're trying to go. And so, that is why visionary lean thinking is so important. So, no matter what, and if you're in business, if you're in a volunteer organization, if you work for a nonprofit, whether you're in manufacturing, healthcare, lean has a place. Lean, continuous improvement, it is the connection. And lean also ties into personal goal setting. So that is that link of getting us from current state to future state, when we're going from dreaming to doing, from the excitement to the execution. Lean continuous improvement is that connector. And specifically, the plan, do, check, act cycle and the improvement kata, because it provides us with a logical approach to take when it comes to thinking, when it comes to goal setting, when it comes to determining like Farrah was saying, what experiments we want to run, what it is that we want to test. And then along the way, we learn more about ourselves. We grow as people, we learn new skills, we're able to overcome obstacles, we're able to accomplish these big things one small step at a time, using lean thinking, using scientific thinking, being very methodical about our approach. So, and I realize that there is a variety in our audience in terms of where people may be on their lean journey. So I'm not going to get too heavy in this, but I do want to touch on, the basics of the plan, do, check, act cycle and the improvement kata, just ensure that we're, like someone said earlier, it's important that we're all speaking the same language. So where I see that PDCA is the connection with visionary and lean thinking, whatever we're trying to accomplish, whatever it is we want to improve, whatever problem we want to solve, it follows this plan, do, check, act cycle. And it starts out with, it's 4 steps. What is it you want to accomplish? What do you need to get there? And then when you come up with your plan, well, it's time to pilot it, or it's time to test it out. You want to do it. And then you want to go back and check the results. Whatever it is that you expected, did it happen? Great. Well, then how can we standardize that and set that as a way to continue on to do that process? Or if it didn't go as you expected it, well, what did you learn from it? How can you build upon it? But whatever you're doing, remember that it's a continuous cycle. This arrow at the end, it's an arrow. It's not a period, or it's not an exclamation mark. It represents a continuation. And at the heart of everything, we always want to go and see. In the workplace, we want to go and see what's going on in reality, not just what's in the document. And the same is true in our personal lives. We don't want to make assumptions. We want to go and see how things operate. So with the plan, do, check, act cycle, when it comes to visioning and coming up with this pattern of lean thinking in terms of how we accomplish our goals, we may have a theory, something that we predict may happen. Well, then we'll need to observe. We'll need to go and see what actually happens, and then make whatever adjustments we need to make along the way, getting us one step closer and closer to whatever target we've set for ourselves, or whatever goal it is that we want to accomplish. So, we should always be curious. We should always, just look for ways to improve upon whatever it is that we're doing. So, an example of that and looking how to apply the plan, do, check, act cycle and visionary lean thinking. Part of my background, I worked at a printing company. And so one of the big goals that we were always focused on in terms of setting up the printing presses is, we wanted to make sure that our customers had their decorative boxes or their containers in the time that they needed them, especially around holiday time when there's a lot of gift boxes that are decorated in really bright colors. So, one of the challenges that we often sought to overcome was reducing the setup time for a press, because setting up a press, making sure that the ink and all of the other components of producing an item for the customer, setting the press up wasn't of a value to the customer. What was of value to the customer was receiving a product. And so, we would frame it in a question. I would have teams framing it in a question of, wouldn't it be great if we could reduce setup time on a press? But we would be really specific. Wouldn't it be great if we could reduce setup time by 20%? And we would set a target and we would run through this plan, do, check, act cycle. And we might run an experiment. And the first experiment that we may run, we may have made a reduction by 2%. Did we celebrate? Yes, because we were one step closer to what it is we wanted to achieve. And then, of course, when we reached that 20% reduction, well, did we stop there? Absolutely not. We wanted to continue to look for ways to improve, because a part of our vision and our purpose is delighting the customer, making sure that they have the product they need when they need it in the way that they wanted it. And so, a step getting closer to that was looking for ways to reduce setup time so that the customer can have the product when they need it. From a personal example, let's say that, you have this vision that you want to, whoever is in your target audience or whoever it is that's in your circle of influence, perhaps you want to educate them on a topic that's near and dear to your heart. So you may set for a goal that you want to write a book. And so you'll develop your plan for writing that book. You'll have to identify the topic, the audience. You may need to get some more information. You may need to go and see and do some market research. And then you want to start working on it one step at a time. How do you write a book? One word at a time, one sentence at a time, one chapter at a time. And you continue to go through this plan, do, check, act cycle of building your book, of finding a publisher. And after all of these cycles, it gets to the point where your book is available on the shelf. And whatever it is that you had a vision in terms of the knowledge that you want to share with your audience through the book, you've applied this plan, do, check, act cycle to execute that, but it started with a vision of what you wanted to accomplish. Okay, I'm going to pause there. Tracy, are there any questions? Or
not yet. I'm sure that the brain is ticking though, because I'm thinking about all of the ways I use PDCA for lots of my goals. I had the pleasure of attending Deandra's vision boarding workshop early on, a month ago at the beginning of the year. And I'm still PDCAing my stuff all the time. It's great.
Yes. And so, here's the thing, what we know and what we practice, what we learn from the Toyota production system, what we learn from Lean, what we learn from PDCA, again, it applies to all aspects of life. It's a process of having that vision, applying the Lean thinking, going through the steps, the doing, and continuously learning, continuously growing, developing, building, and improving and accomplishing great things. So, the Improvement Kata connection. So the Improvement Kata, it has 4 steps. And Kata is not an acronym. It doesn't stand for anything. Kata is a suffix. It means a way of doing. But what I want to speak about specifically is, especially when we talk about these long range or these strategic goals, is something that you can't reach today. Usually in the Kata, it's framed as, you look at what your description of success is, 6 months to 3 years in the future. Okay. But the thing about it starts out with a vision, beginning with what gives you purpose, what is driving you. And again, that's in the workplace. And it's also in our personal lives. And so that's the exciting part, this vision piece. Well, then you want to accomplish it. That's the execution. That's the steps we come up with. That's the small bite that we can take, getting closer to achieving whatever that big vision is. But the heart, what's in the middle, is the challenge. And one of the questions that's asked in framing the challenge is, wouldn't it be great? So in thinking about the strategy or the vision or what it is that we're excited about, and the execution, the dream, whatever it is that we want to accomplish, the challenge helps us to connect those two. And again, it's phrased in the form of a question usually. Wouldn't it be great? I love asking that question. So this slide goes into more detail about the steps of the Improvement Kata. And again, this is a model that comes from research that Mike Rother did while he was at Toyota. And it just shows how leaders manage their people. They encourage them to think, they encourage them to do, to use their creativity. And so it starts with getting that direction or challenge. What is it that we're ultimately trying to accomplish? What is our wouldn't it be great? Well, we have to figure out where we are. We want to grasp that current condition. And then we want to set the target, looking at the direction or challenge as an elephant. Well, that target is, what is the first bite we want to take out of the elephant so we don't overwhelm ourselves? And then, like Farah talked about, we want to experiment. What are the steps that we're going to take to get us from our current condition to the next target? And what I want to focus on right here is this jagged line, because this jagged line represents the experiments. It represents the PDCA cycles, the things that we want to try to get us closer to our target. And what I appreciate, it's a jagged line, because you know what else is a jagged line? Life. So we may have a hypothesis, we may have an expectation about something we want to accomplish. There will be times where, oh my goodness, we're making some good stride, we're making progress. Well, it looks like we're having a setback, we're having a dip. No matter what, we're learning along the way and we're getting closer and closer to our target. So in terms of this personal goal setting and visionary lean thinking, start out thinking, what is your wouldn't it be great? What is your wouldn't it be great as it relates to personal goals, even your professional goals, something regarding your family. There's no limits. What is your wouldn't it be great? And it starts there. And like I said, in the workplace, that challenge usually comes from above. But personally, that challenge comes from within, something that, that really gets you going, that gets you up in the morning and gets you really excited about life. So think about that. What is your wouldn't it be great? Something else I want to focus on is that we have these targets, but recognize that it's baby steps. And I forget if it was Mark who mentioned it, Mark Smeets, but it's one step at a time. You start out with the smallest step, realizing you have this target to reach, and then there's another target and another target, or however many targets you need to set, but recognize you are aligned and you're on your path, working towards your vision, setting goals, setting targets to get closer to your vision, and that you're living in your purpose. So, question for you. Can you envision using lean? And even if you're relatively new to lean, and just from what we've discussed so far, can you envision using lean for personal goal setting? And you can be honest. You're in a safe place here.
Good. And while we're waiting for people in the poll, we had a question. I've heard some organizations as how might we, as a similar way of stretching thinking. What's your reaction to that phrase?
I think that works. Anything that how the person worded it stretches the thinking, it gets people to thinking. It gets our brains out of that mindset of, oh my goodness, I'm afraid of this, I can't do this, but getting people to think creatively about, yes, we can do this. So I like that as a question as well.
Wonderful. And nobody disagrees with you so far, Deandra. 100% of the people that participated said, yes, they could use lean for personal goal setting. And just want to let you know, you got about 20 minutes left as well.
Okay. Thank you very much. So moving right along. So, what are the steps to apply visionary lean thinking to goal setting? What Tracy had already shared in terms of my big vision, my goal is to create a world of problem solvers. That's pretty huge. And so, how am I going to get there? Who knows? But what I know is that I'm going to take it step by step. So step one is visualize your desired future state. And that's where we're strategic. That's where we're framing it. That's where we're linking that vision to lean thinking. That's where we ask that question, wouldn't it be great? That wouldn't it be great helps us to start getting our arms around things. So, in connection with, wouldn't it, I want to create this, I have a dream to create this world of problem solvers. That's my vision. Well, wouldn't it be great where I can start wrapping my arms around this and start to getting it in a piece that I can manage. And again, remember, looking at your future state, this can be anywhere, this is a long term, 3 months to a year to 3 years. You determine what that is, but it's not something accomplished next week. So mine might be, wouldn't it be great if I could start a podcast with a theme that introduces people to how lean can be used in their everyday lives and personal goal setting? That's a future state. Okay, so that's step one. I'm going to pause here. I'm going to ask a question. What dream do you want to achieve in 2021? What is something that you're thinking about? And think about it in a form of a question. Wouldn't it be great? So wouldn't it be great if you're fill in the blank by the end of the year? What is your desired future state? There's one or two examples.
Mm-hmm. And I'll say, I know the answer to this because I did participate in your vision board workshop for 2021. And mine was, would it be great if I did better self-care?
I think that is on quite a few vision boards for 2021.
Mark says, wouldn't it be great if I could be able to run without injury?
Oh,
good.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Anyone else want to share?
And again, don't feel pressured like you have to. This may be something you want to think about. We'll have an opportunity to come back to this.
Okay.
So, step one was visualizing your desired future state. Step two is understanding your current state. And so here, a SWOT analysis. Now, usually a SWOT analysis, and SWOT stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. That's something that companies or businesses usually use to do an internal look at the company and look at what it is that they can control and what it is that they can change versus what's out of their control. And so it's important when we go and see, remember what was at the center of that PDCA cycle, to go and see, well, as we're going to see what's going on in our own lives and as it terms of our own personal goal setting, as a part of that, assessing and understanding our current state, we want to do a SWOT analysis, looking at ways that we can improve every day. And, that starts out with taking some time to reflect and taking personal inventory on our strengths. What are our capabilities? What are our skills? What are our gifts? What are our talents? What are our resources that we want to build on? What are our weaknesses? And we're not looking at our weaknesses to condemn ourselves or to say, oh my goodness, why aren't you further along on this journey? But looking at opportunities to develop and opportunities to grow. And again, just to improve upon how we think about things and our approach and how it is the mindset we have of whatever it is that we want to work towards and accomplish. When we look at opportunities, that also ties into that visionary lean thinking out of the box. I know I've always done it this way. Is there another way I haven't thought about? Is there someone I can collaborate with? Why do I feel like this is something I have to do on my own? Can I team up with another person or others to move me closer from my current state to whatever it is I want to achieve in the future? And then looking at obstacles. Those are the threats. What are the perceptions? What are things that I perceive as difficult to overcome? What is holding me back? Okay. So using that SWOT analysis to understand your current state, that is step two. So step three is set a goal or target. And we want to set a SMART goal. We want to be specific. We want it to be measurable. We want it to be attainable or achievable. We want it to be relevant or realistic. And of course, we want it to be timely. So, as a way to maintain that curiosity and that cycle of improvement where we never stop looking for ways to improve, well, we want to be smart about it. We want to have a specific goal. It should be something that's measurable. Even for personal goals, it's really important. If we say that self-care is something that we want to focus on, well, we need to put a measurement around it because That's how we know when we're making that progress and attaining, which is the next thing, what it is that we want to achieve. And then it needs to be relevant. It needs to be something worthwhile. It needs to be something meaningful. And then have a set time frame. So, in our big goal and our wouldn't it be great, that may be something that is a little longer off, maybe 3 months, 6 months, a year. But when we start to set our target in step 3, that's that first bite. That's the first step we want to take. So it should be smaller. So it could even be a week. It could be within 2 weeks, but something that you want to set as a goal and a way to measure it so that you know when you've achieved it. Okay. So it's not about boiling the ocean here. It's taking that first bite, taking that first step to get us closer to whatever it is we're trying to achieve. So again, I'm bringing back the steps of the Toyota Kata, but what I want to emphasize again is, when we run into obstacles, and, this is step 4, we want to work towards our goal daily. So, it's good to have this objective of whatever it is we want to accomplish in 3 months, but we're not just going to wave a wand and 3 months from now, voila, all of a sudden it's happened. We need to work on it daily. Daily, we want to apply the steps of a plan, do, check, act cycle. We want to run these experiments. We want to work towards whatever it is our goal is. We want to continue to break it down in bite-sized pieces where we're getting closer and closer and closer to our target. And so, earlier I talked about, I asked the question about, your wouldn't it be great? And although you may, still be thinking about that, what I want you to really get from seeing this slide is that, overcoming obstacles, as you're working through your experiments, whatever it is that you want to test and achieve, it may be hard, but when you break it down and do it one step at a time and recognizing that there is no such thing as failure, there's always something you can learn, there's always something you can improve upon, and you're following the steps, you will get there, and let that be an encouragement to you. So, again, the kata does not apply to what goes on, although it's a term for martial arts, it applies to personal improvement because the principles that are used in business remain true with what goes on in our personal lives. And then, the next part, step 5, is that we keep going. Whatever it is you want to do, whatever it is you expect to do, well, try it, test it out, do it, take that step. Then, go and see. You always want to pay attention. What is it that you're measuring? What does the data show you? And then evaluate from what you predicted, what actually happened? What did you learn? And then the cycle just continues. That's what it means to be focused on continuous improvement, to be visionary, to have that lean thinking, is that we're always looking for ways to improve, but we want to be methodical about it and making sure that we go through the steps. We don't jump from prediction to evaluation. We don't jump from plan to act. We want to go through the steps. And as a result of practicing this on a frequent basis, then it becomes habit. You'll find that your mind begins to get wired to lean thinking. And as you're focusing on your vision and what it is you want to accomplish, you can't help but to go through these steps. So I have another question for you. Are you ready to visualize your goal or your target?
I have a feeling it's going to be another 100%er.
I think it might be. I think it may be.
People are like, yes, we're on board. Keep going. And so far, okay, one person said no. All right, let's find out who that person is so we can troll them.
No, don't troll them. Don't troll them.
I'm totally kidding.
Say no to troll.
All right, good. We still have a few people. Good. Are you ready to visualize your goal? All right. Go ahead and end it and say that 92% of the people said yes. Okay. 2 people are not ready, and that is totally fine. I was totally kidding.
That's totally fine. So what I want to do now is show some examples of visualizing, because what we visualize and what we place emphasis on, once we get that picture in our mind, it really helps us to first think about, well, what's my next target? What's my first step? And then what is it that I can do every day to work towards my goal? So I have examples of 2 vision boards, strategic vision boards that I did with 2 individuals. So this particular one was with a gentleman, great friend of mine. He had this vision. He wanted to connected to his purpose. His purpose is represented in this image here, focusing on improving self, continuously improving, focusing on taking care of his family, being an integral part of the community, just pursuing better for the highest good. And what he determined is he had reached a point in his life where he was ready to retire. And so he set October 7th as his date. He completed this vision board the end of last fall, around the September, October timeframe. And so every image that he put in this board represents him working towards his goal and things that he needed to do daily to achieve that goal. Well, I'm happy to report that he achieved his target in line with his vision and actually resigned and retired February 12th last month. So he was able to pull that date in. So that's an example of going from dreaming to doing. Another example of going from dreaming to doing is a good friend of mine, Donna Shealy, she'd always done vision boards, and we got together and did strategic vision boards. And like Mike, on the previous slide, she applied the plan, do, check, act cycle and lean thinking and the steps of the Improvement Kata. And what she had set for herself as a goal, she wanted to work for, a really top radio station in Atlanta. And she wanted to do more voiceover. She had a podcast already. She wanted to grow that, but there were some other things that she wanted to do with her skills. Well, she set these objectives on her vision board. She came up with things that she would do daily, and the pandemic hit. But even in the midst of the pandemic, she was able to relocate to Atlanta. She's on the Classics 102.9, meeting all kinds of celebrities virtually, doing all kinds of wonderful things. And then she's also do the narration and an audio for a book by Tamara Winfrey Harris, someone else who did a strategic vision board of she wanted to write a book. So, applying these steps that I've shared with you can take you from dreaming to doing. So I have a question for you. Have you cast your vision for 2021? Do you have an idea of what it is that you want to accomplish for 2021? One thing that you really want to focus on?
Let's see, this is a poll. I'm going to go ahead and launch it for you.
Okay, thank you. Tracy?
Yes or no, have you cast it?
So Tracy, what is your answer to this? Have you cast your vision for 2021?
I have, and I am working on the experimenting part about me checking it daily. I've redone that thing 4 times, which is okay. It's getting better and better and easier and easier. So I love it.
Good.
All right, we have not 100% on this, and that is fine. 69% said yes, and 31% said no. We've got about 7 minutes left.
Good. So here's the thing, at least it's now at the top of your mind for those who have cast your vision for 2021. Great. If you have not yet cast your vision, guess what? It's just now the beginning of March. You still have time, so you're in a good spot. Okay. So the recap, closing up. We can go from dreaming to doing by having that vision and following lean thinking. And, those steps are step 1. We want to visualize our future state, looking at something long-term, 6 months to a year to 3 years out. The second step is we want to understand our current condition. We want to go and see. We want to do that personal SWOT analysis. Step 3, we want to set a goal or target, and we want to be smart about it. It should be specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time sensitive. We want to put a date around it. And remember, in setting a target, that's that next bite we want to take. So the time frame is not a year out. It's shorter because we're making a small step. So it may be 2 weeks, it may be 3 weeks, it may even be 3 to 4 days in setting that target. You want to work toward that goal daily. And the thing about it, you want to keep going. We're not looking for perfection here. We're looking at progress. So something for all the attendees, for attending today, I'm doing a strategic vision board workshop next Saturday, March 13th. And for everyone who attends the session, if you're interested in doing a strategic vision board workshop, you're welcome to register. Just make sure you put in the code JIT, stands for Just in Time, short for Just in Time Cafe, to receive your 20% discount. And so, I thank you so much for your time today. This has been so much fun in the cafe, and I'm going to turn it over to Tracy for some announcements.
Thank you so much, Deandra. And if you have questions, please put them in the chat window. I'm going to go over a few slides before. So if you have questions on the chat, the Just in Time Cafe, we have webinars the first and third Thursday of every month. So reserve it on your calendar. Our next webinar is Thursday, March 18th, featuring our own Elizabeth Swan. She's going to be sharing some skills that involve the softer side of getting things done with Lean Six Sigma. People skills, a very important piece of working to improve processes with others. And then next, we just will talk about the Just in Time Cafe podcast. It's back and even better because you can also watch the episode on video on YouTube and on our website. Our next coming episode is going to feature Jeffrey Leicher, author of The Toyota Way. He released his second edition to his book, and he'll talk about how Mike Rother and he are connected. A very interesting story there.
Well, this was so much fun, and I'm quickly browsing through the comments in the chat, and this group was so involved and so engaged, and the information that you shared with one another, I absolutely love it, because that speaks to the whole togetherness and the SWOT analysis. When we look at opportunities, how can we partner and collaborate and work with one another to accomplish whatever it is that we're working towards? And so I love seeing that it's taking place in the chat.
And I'll just say that I did participate, like I said already, in the Strategic Vision Board Workshop. It really is impactful. If you haven't been to it, I would highly encourage and strongly recommend that you attend the workshop because it does really clarify, especially for those of you that maybe haven't cast the vision for 2021. There was a good majority that said they haven't yet. And so I would definitely join her in her workshop. It's a lot of fun.
And I do want to say, again, to everyone who joined today, Rachel McLaughlin, oh my goodness, I haven't talked to you in forever. It's so good to see you here. And all of the people, Stephanie and Anastasia and both Marks and Gemma, Jane, everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. I hope that something was shared that will be beneficial to you and that will help keep you moving on to the next one. This is so fun. And feel free to send me a connection request on LinkedIn. Follow me on Twitter. Like I said, I'd love to stay in contact with you and answer, if you have questions or, you want to talk about lean.
Mark has one question. He wants to know how you would manage multiple visions.
That is a good question. And I think it's good to, like, on my vision board, I have multiple visions represented. But in keeping in line with what's taught with continuous improvement and especially the Toyota Kata, I think it's really smart to focus on one target at a time. And so maybe it's a matter of prioritizing those. Something else, I have a coach, what the way she does vision boards is she'll put it in terms of quarters. She'll divide it up by time. And so set the objectives as to, what it is that you want to accomplish with that vision. So it could vary. And as a matter of fact, we talk about that in the Strategic Vision Board workshops because everyone's vision is unique, and it's important to capture your vision in a way that's meaningful to you, that doesn't overwhelm you, but still guides you and motivates you into accomplishing what it is that's on your heart to achieve.
Awesome. He said he liked that idea. Thank you.
Okay, great.
All right, everyone. Take care. Thanks for joining us.